Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here on this cold and snowy day in Chicago to leave our warm homes and brave the elements. It's a great honor for us also to be here, to be sharing the Spiritist teachings, the Spiritist studies with you. So this morning we are going to talk about the presence of spirits in our daily lives. And to start, we have first to believe that we are spirits. If you wouldn't believe that we are spirits, you wouldn't be here. So we all know that we are eternal spirits, but we need to understand that we have God, the Creator, and then we have the spirits, and then we have everything else that we call, that derives from the universal cosmic fluid, that is matter, that is everything that we find in the universe, and our physical and spiritual bodies, our perispirit. So, we talked about spirits. Let's start how we define spirits. And on the Spirits book, question 76, the answer from the spirits is, we can say that spirits are the intelligent beings of the creation. So, we have God, the Creator, we have the spirits, and then that are the intelligent beings of the Creator, the creation, and then we have everything else that it's not intelligent. It's all matter, material in its diverse forms derived from, again, from the universal cosmic fluid. So then Kardec asks the spirits, is it correct to say that spirits are immaterial? And then the spirits answer, how can we define something when we have no terms for comparison? And when we only have insufficient language at our disposal. So they say on question 82 that a spirit is quintessentialized matter, which is as best as we can to approach of an explanation of something that we don't have words for. Because we have this in Spiritism and in our lives and in different languages also, we have this limitation, which is the lack of words to explain different things. We end up using sometimes the same word for different meanings. A very easy example of that is love. We define love as something greater than a personal relationship, but we also define love as a relationship and care between two people. So we should have more than one word, but unfortunately we still don't have. And to define a spirit also, we are limited by our lack of appropriate words to explain. So we stay with the explanation from the spirits, which is quintessentialized matter, which is as much as we can get close to the definition. So let's do some Q&As directly, very simple question and answers for us to understand the notion of the presence of spirits in our daily lives. And again, we are talking about spirits here, incarnate and discarnate. Spirits here in the physical world, spirits in the spiritual world through their perispiritual body, which is also matter. So, does the thinking being that exists within us stop thinking after death? And if you are all here, it's because you believe that there is something after the end of our physical life. So the answer is no. So we don't stop thinking after death. So that's a proof that is not our physical body that thinks. It's something beyond our physical body that we call us the eternal spirits. So if we keep on thinking, do we still think of those whom we love or hate? One very important thing that we learn in Spiritism, and that is sometimes a lot different from other beliefs that are out there, is that in Spiritism we learn that we don't change anything after we lose our physical body. We go back to the spiritual world, and we are exactly the same as we were the day before. Of course, the trauma of the passage could be greater, smaller, or bigger, depending on how you cross over to the other side, can affect you in some form, and the spirits talk about this in the Spirits book. But generally, you know, if my physical body dies today and I discarnate, I go back to the spiritual world, I'll wake up there tomorrow or in one week or in 3 days or whatever, and I'll be exactly the same. So I'll continue loving my wife, loving those around me, and I'll continue to have some problems with those that I don't like very much, or they don't like me very much. That doesn't change. So we are still thinking of them. And actually, it gets a little bit more, I wouldn't say worse, but a little bit more complicated. Because what this physical body allows us here in this physical world is a distraction, right? We have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to live our lives. So this distracts us from those thoughts that can disturb us. When we go back to the spiritual world, that we no longer have those physical needs, all we do is think. And this can be a blessing or it can be a problem. Now, so obviously, if one can be anywhere, can a spirit also be next to us? And those that are seeing mediums will answer that, of course, they are seeing them all the time. Most of us that cannot see the spiritual world only can feel their presence, but the answer is definitely yes. So if we have a guardian angel or a protecting spirit, as we prefer to use in Spiritism, and how this protecting spirit is going to interact with us if they cannot be close to us. So close here is not a physical term, is a mental term, right? So this protecting spirit can be far away from us as we understand physically, but they are going to be close to us mentally on the vibrational level. So, of course, if a spirit may be by our side, can he communicate with us? What would be the purpose of having a protecting spirit if we couldn't communicate with them, right? Then it would be a waste of time, of their time, and our time. So if we have a protecting spirit, this protecting spirit has to be able to communicate with us. So, of course, they can communicate with us, and we can communicate with them. So this is the connection between an incarnate and a discarnate, is through the vibrational level. So if they can communicate with us, do they influence our thoughts and actions? And the answer, obviously, and it's on the Spirit's book 459, they say, their influence upon you in this regard is greater than you suppose, for very frequently it is they who guide you. And that's a very important answer from the spirits, telling us that they are around us and they are influencing us more than we think. And here we are going to talk on both sides, the positive influences and the negative influences. So the physical and spiritual worlds interaction, how does it work? Both planes intermingle, so they are continuous, right? We shouldn't consider the spiritual world and the physical world as two separate planes. They are interconnected. So we have all of you that I can see here, and there are many spirits here that I cannot see, but we know that they are here because they are also either helping us, learning from us, and sharing with us their thoughts and their experiences. But, of course, most of us cannot see the spiritual world. Most of us cannot feel directly. Most of us feel indirectly the influence of the spirits. So there is this vibrational barrier that separates the two worlds. And this can kind of make the interaction a little bit more difficult. But what are the ways to overcome this vibrational barrier between the physical world and the spiritual world? There are ways. And the most simple way, and the way that we do it every day and mostly every night, is during our sleep. And so I just finished, on our study group on Thursdays, we just finished studying dreams and sleep. And of course, every time we talk about sleep and dreams, there are thousands of questions and curiosity, how everything works and how the sleep works, how we separate from our physical body and so on and so forth. But this is a natural state. The first thing that it's important for us to understand is that sleep is a natural state, and the interaction with the spiritual world during our sleep is something natural. And it happens to everybody, even those that tell you that I don't dream, I don't remember anything, so I don't dream. Yes, they do, they just don't remember. Some people remember very clearly their dreams, but some people remember a little bit. So the opportunities we have during our sleep of seeing those loved ones that departed already, went back to the spiritual world. We have an opportunity to receive guidance from our guardian angel, our spiritual protector. And, of course, we have the opportunity of learning. So the question that comes to us, and they asked a couple of times during our studies, is how does it work in the spiritual world? Where do I find myself? I go to sleep, and then I go to have experiences. First thing, why don't I remember my dreams? Okay. We, the physical body, our physical body stays. We, the spirit, we go there to the spiritual world. We have interactions. Everything that we are experiencing there is being recorded by the spirit, but not by the physical body. The physical body is here. The spirit is experiencing everything. So when the spirit reconnects to their physical body, it brings some recollections of the experiences that are transmitted in our physical brain, and these are the ones that you are going to remember. Now, you know how our brain works. If I say two words that doesn't make any sense, our brain immediately bridges them and finds a connection to them to make sense of everything that we think or that we experience. So when we remember our dreams, what happens? We know parts of it. And what our brain does? Connect the dots. So creates connections to our dreams that are not, many times are not the reality. It's our own tendencies, how our own thought process works. We have our inclinations. So we are going to create the connections to our dreams, to the parts of our dreams that we remember, that make sense to us. So in the end, we create a whole story of our dreams that is not the complete reality, because parts of it were our own mind creations. And why is that? Why shouldn't we completely remember our dreams? Well, there's several reasons. there is in the book Between Heaven and Earth, André Luiz has an experience of a mother that they take to visit a son that she lost in a spiritual colony for children that were recently discarnated. And she has, of course, a wonderful experience seeing her son and interacting with her son. And André Luiz asks the mentor if she was going to remember the experiences that she had with her son. And the mentor says she's going to have a vague recollection, a pleasant, vague recollection, because if she fully remembers the experience, she wouldn't want to wake up. She would want to stay there, and that's dangerous. You wouldn't want to, you know, you can lead you to commit some mistakes that are not going to help you. So there are several reasons that we don't remember our dreams. This is an example of one. Also it's possible that there is really nothing important in that dream for our present physical life. Everything that we learn is important for us as eternal spirits. But not everything that we experience in the spiritual world are important for this present life. So we are not going to put more garbage. I was not going to say garbage because it's not the best word, because all experiences are useful and important. But if they are not important for this, actually the word is clutter. We're not going to clutter our brains with things that are not relevant for this present life. And other explanations. So we are experiencing the spiritual world every night during our sleep. Just a parenthesis, the dreams that you remember that are all confusing, doesn't make any sense, a lot of things here and there that jumps from one to another. These are not experiences in the spiritual world. These are our own brain reassessing our daily experiences and bringing some of these images and recollections. So these are not really dreams in the spiritual world. These are our own brain. So it's important also to have this separation, to understand these different kinds of dreams that we have, and so we can also be a little bit more careful when we see those books out there that explain dreams or give explanations. Actually, we are going, because we cannot really fully explain our dreams, most of us. We have couple of people there in our center that fully remember their dreams and describe their dreams from beginning to end, and they have some interesting experiences, but most of us cannot. So let's use our dreams to help us, to comfort us, to illuminate us, but let's not try to make a literal explanation and try to understand them literally, because they are not many times. Okay, so this, for those that have read Poe and Steven, this is one of the most interesting parts, when Paul is sleeping in a cave, and then he goes back during his sleep and meets Stephen and receives guidance, comfort. It's a beautiful interaction that he has with Stephen, and that he remembers. Again, whatever is really important for us, we're going to remember, even if it's small pieces and bits. But if it's something that is important to our lives, that happens during our sleep, we are going to remember, at least have a good recollection of parts of it. So Paul has this remembrance of the experience he had with Stephen in the dream. He actually, there is other meetings that he meets Abigail, and they are also very beautiful. It's a wonderful book. You know that. But another way, yes.
So all the dreams we have, all of them are us in the spiritual world, or they're just dreams?
Every time we dream, we go back to the. Oh, okay. So the question was that if all the dreams that we have are experiences in the spiritual world, or sometimes they are just dreams. Again, there is this separation that I explained. That part that you remember that's very confusing. That doesn't make any sense. These are not experiences in the spiritual world. This is our brain bringing some recollections of our physical life. Everything else are experiences in the spiritual world. The problem that they don't make sense to us, our dreams, is because, you know, there is a 2-hour movie and they tell you 5 minutes of the movie in the middle of it. So you have no idea how it started, how it ended. It makes no sense to you. And these are the parts that sometimes we remember. And that's why it looks like a dream, because we don't have the full picture. So, but they are all experiences in the spiritual world, if they are not these crazy recollections of our physical life, that the parts that don't make sense. But the most common way that we interact with the spiritual world, and that happens all the time during our life, is through the influence of thoughts. And the spirits tell us that the spirits can see everything that we do because we're constantly surrounded by them. So the obvious question of everyone that is new to Spiritism, I remember a lady saying that she was going to take a shower dressed because she didn't want the spirits to see her. The example normally we use is, what is the most busy street here in Chicago? So you are walking on Michigan Avenue, right? During a busy time of the day. And you walk 1 block. After you finish 1 block, someone comes to you and asks you, describe everyone you saw during that 1 block walk. You may be able to describe 1 or 2 people that call your attention because they were dressed differently or because they were acting crazy, but the other 100 people that you saw, you're not going to be able to describe, because you were not interested in them. And that's how the spirits, they can see everything we do, but they're not interested. So they're not following us around all the time to look at everything that we do. They have better things to do. So they are not interested in us unless it is necessary for something. And then they will be part of our lives, and they will be trying to influence us both negatively or positively, but only if there's something relevant. Otherwise, we are exposed to them, yes, but don't worry, they're not that interested in us. We're not that interesting most of the time. So they know our most secret thoughts, and they know what we would like to conceal from ourselves. But what happens there is that the more elevated spirits, the guardian angels, they don't look at this down on us, but they look at this as an opportunity to help, as an opportunity to help us overcome our imperfections. And the less evolved spirits, they will look at opportunities to make us choose the wrong path. So they will also access, through our own mental vibrations, our imperfections, our inferior thoughts. So when we are in moments of affliction, and this is also from the book Between Heaven and Earth, you see how many spirits are there to protect this child that is sick and the mother that is protecting the child. You have all this team of protecting spirits that come to help and assist us in the times that we are most in need, when we are living our normal lives without many difficult issues. We have our guardian angel, our protecting spirit, our familiar spirits helping, trying to help us. But in the moments that we are really struggling, we have an army of spirits at our disposition to help us. Our part is to open ourselves to be helped by them, because normally we immerse ourselves in our own inferior thoughts. We start sending these negative vibrations towards the environment, and it makes very difficult for the spirits to have access to us and to help us. So that means that we have our own thoughts, plus others that are suggested to us? Yes. Our thoughts are always a combination of our own ideas and the Spirit influence to us. But, you know, if you think that this is odd, just let's forget about the spiritual world. Our thoughts here are influenced all the time by what we hear from what's happening around us, right? So you watch the news, you are doing something, you are working, you are influenced by the actions and thoughts of those around you. So if this happens here, of course, if the spirits are around us all the time, they will be also influencing us, and we will be connecting with them, with our thoughts and their thoughts. And sometimes these ideas, the spirits say here on the question 460, that they battle it out with each other, because sometimes we have conflicting thoughts, and we know that, right? We are thinking one thing, and then we have, should we go this way or that way? What's the exact approach I should take to this? So the spirits are influencing our thoughts, and they are giving us ideas, and it's our duty to learn how to use them to our own benefit and to benefit from them. So then Kardec asks the spirits, how can we distinguish between our own thoughts and those that are suggested to us? Normally our first thought is ours, because it comes from us. It's our first instinct. And then the second one, normally it may come from the spirit, can be a spirit suggestion. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other. They are just from different sources. Our responsibility is to know what to do with these different thoughts that we have in our minds, and to choose, because not all thoughts that are given to us by the spirits come from evolved spirits. It may come from our enemies of the past, or those that want to persecute us. So those are the thoughts that we should not pay attention to. So we have to study, know thyself, right? That's the basic. By knowing ourselves, we will learn how to differentiate. So how can we tell if a suggested thought comes from good or an evil spirit? And I didn't know that, but Jussara told me yesterday. I looked all the time. I looked at this. I only see good there, and there is evil written in the middle of it, right? I noticed only yesterday. How interesting, right? So the answer from the spirits is study the matter. Good spirits give only good advice. It is your responsibility to make the distinction. If you feel someone forcing you to do something, you can be sure that it is not influence from a good spirit. Good spirits only inspire us. They will never force or ask us to do anything. They will give us strength, inspiration, guidance. So if you have thoughts, someone is telling you to do something, forcing you to do something, don't. Analyze it. Be very cautious with it. From the book Voltaire, I don't know if you read this book. It's a very interesting book that describes the discarnation, complete discarnation of Frederico Figner, who was the president of the Brazilian Spiritist Federation in the beginning of the 20th century. And before he dies, he asks the spirits to allow him to be conscious during the process of discarnation, so he could come back and tell the story. It's very interesting. So this is when, right after he discarnated, he's here, that he's walking by in Rio, close to the sea, and he sees this this person walking around with some very dark spirits around this person. This is the negative thoughts, the influences, the spirits that want to harm us, want to prevent us from moving forward, now it's our responsibility to try to disconnect from them, not allow them to influence our lives. And why these spirits induce us to evil? Because they are suffering, and they want us to suffer together with them. You know this phrase, misery loves company, right? So do this actually lessen their sufferings? And the answer from the spirits, no, it doesn't. But they do so anyway out of envy at seeing happier beings, okay? So an example normally that we give here, you think of something that is unfortunately very common these days in the big cities in the US, the gangs, right? Can anyone leave a gang on their own? No, right? The gang doesn't allow them to leave. They sometimes kill them, they hurt them, they make life very hard. Why? If a spirit sees us progressing and they don't want us to progress, why they don't want us to progress? Because two things. Either they want to keep us close to them at the same level, or seeing us progress will make them feel their own inferiority, their own shortcomings, their own necessity of also progressing. And, you know, unfortunately, we human beings we still have something that's called jealousy. And we still struggle with those around us succeeding more than we do. We do this with every day in our work, in our lives. We see successful people, and we all admire / envy them, right? And so we go back to the spiritual world. We are no different. We continue to have the same sentiments, same feelings, and we see those that were close to us moving forward and succeeding, and we get envious, and we don't want them to move forward because it will make us have to work hard also to improve ourselves, and we don't want to work hard. We want to get the easy way out always. So that's why some of these spirits that are trying to influence us try to make our lives very difficult. They don't want us to progress. And this question comes from Kardec also. Why does God allow those spirits to incite us to evil? And you know, nowadays we are trying to move away from this notion of God allowing or not allowing, because the natural laws created by God are perfect. So everything is in the natural laws. So it's not God that allows us, those spirits to incite us to evil. We are the ones that allow them to incite us to evil, because when we connect with them, we allow them to influence our lives. This is just the natural law. The law of the creation is a perfect law. So these spirits that test us give us an opportunity to progress through our learning, our moral effort to overcome our imperfections. So if they influence us, it's because we attract them. And when we incline ourselves to do evil things or to make mistakes, they are surely there to help us, to incite us. So when we give way to our inferior tendencies, you can see in this picture of the book, The Domain of Mediumship. This is in a bar, and this writer is writing a note about a lady, and you see the influence of the spirit that doesn't like the lady and wants him to be even more incisive and aggressive towards the lady. That's the influence that he allows the spirit to have because of his behavior and his own thoughts. So Is it personal or is it not personal? Actually, it's both. There are spirits that are connected to us for personal reasons, and there are spirits that are connected to us just because we're doing something that pleases them and they miss from here. So you go to a bar and you start drinking, you attract spirits that used to drink and miss the drinking, the sensation, the spirits. That's the word spirits comes from drinking here. It's not personal. You stop drinking, you go home, and the spirit doesn't follow you. There are many other people drinking at the bar. They don't need you. But if it's personal, then they will follow you, and then it can become a problem. Sometimes the spirit will find you. It's personal, and they are not able to find us. But through our inferior thoughts, they connect to us, and they find us, and then it becomes a little more difficult for them to live. So, that concludes my part. Thank you very much. Jussara is going to take it from here.
Okay. So since we were talking about spirits, one question that always comes to mind as well is to understand if their presence in our homes can negatively impact in our lives. So the idea of our whole studies today is to make it sure that we have it in mind that there are actually two realms, the one of the physical world and the one of the spiritual world, and that we are capable of interacting. What kind of interaction are we going to be having with those spirits, or the spirits with us, is what is going to depend entirely on us. So even when we are talking about places that may be, and they use actually this terminology, infested, they call it infestation of negative presences. It doesn't mean that their presence there is going to impact on you, to impact in your day-to-day lives. They may be attached to a physical environment because it looks familiar to them, but everything else, the new people that lives on this house or this flat, whatever, has nothing to do with them. So there is no connection, not necessarily any kind of connection that may make this interaction. But of course, we have been hearing that the presence of spirits that are somehow attached to places is a fact. And they do actually may be able to provoke phenomena that we call spiritist phenomena, mediumistic spiritist phenomena, that will be perceived or seen by anyone. Not necessarily those spirits may be of an evil nature. They just attach it. They like where they used to be. They like somehow the people that now are living there. They like pranks. And so if they see the possibility of being a cause of a prank, why not? So not necessarily they are evil, as we say. This also is what can be characterized many times as poltergeist. There was a time, I think, I don't know, 20 years ago perhaps, or even more, that there was this, I mean, probably they had a remake, I think they had a remake of the poltergeist movie, where they were showing that there was a certain family, a certain place where all of this phenomena happen. How can those phenomena happen? Of course, we understand and we learn from the medium's book, from the teachings of the spirits, that in order for the spirits to physically manifest, they need someone that will provide them the necessary energy that we may also call ectoplasm to be able to actually provoke certain phenomena. So those phenomena may be happening in different ways. We may even witness everything moving, or we may hear the sound of everything moving. Maybe, you know, when we discard all the physical possibilities, sometimes, you know, we know by living in this country, for instance, that our wood changes and moves during wintertime, summertime, and it makes cracks, and it may provoke a noise. But when we discard those possibilities, and all of a sudden you are hearing noises that have no physical explanation for it, it may be something that is going to be happening by spirit. For instance, there is a passage in the life of Allan Kardec when he was actually putting into place, working on the Spiritist codification, that even considering that he was not what is called an ostensive medium, because he didn't present any kind of ostensive mediumship, he could hear, and then we would say, not being a medium and hearing physically, knocking on the walls, it was a physical phenomena. So he heard knocks on the wall, and he was writing, you know, using the little technology that he had to write, you know, this different inks and pens and everything else, and writing by hand everything, about 10,000 pages that he left for us. And then he hears this knocks. He stops. He continues, or try to continue writing again the knocks, and again the knocks. And then he understood that something was happening, was wrong. And in the following mediumistic seance, at that time they called seance, mediumship meeting they had, he questioned the spirit guide. His spirit guide was St. Louis, and said, well, I was doing that and I heard knocks, what was going on? And they said, what you were writing was wrong. You have to review it. And so he went home and started reviewing it, and he realized that he should be actually changing what he was writing. So this kind of phenomena may happen with us somehow. Something that calls our attention, even when perhaps we're giving ourselves to a situation, since he was talking about thoughts, to thoughts that can be very damaging to us. Let's say we put ourselves in a very depressive mood or something like that, and then a noise or something calls our attention. We find nothing, but it could be actually the presence of a good spirit really trying to interfere with our present mindset that was damaging to us. So there are many things that may happen in those cases. We may hear things, go to places, there is nothing, or I don't know if it happens to you, but many times I hear people calling me and there's no one calling me, and so I'm used to that, or you know, a certain smell that passes by, and so many interesting things that may happen. So everything started, it started being more spread worldwide after the Fox sisters that happened in this country in March 31st, 1848. Here is a very interesting picture because they had to submit themselves to so many challenges and examinations. And here, while they are giving themselves as mediums for this kind of mediumistic physical phenomena to happen, he was holding their knees because sometimes you can make noises with your knees. So just to be sure that there was nothing else in your physical body. Those mediums at the beginning of, all this expansion of phenomena, they went through so many difficult examinations to the point of being nude for them to be sure that there were nothing happening behind their skirts or something like that. We have examples in the film, the movie Ghost, for instance, of this kind of phenomena, materialization of spirits showing and demonstrating to us in those cases, not necessarily in the movie because everyone looks at it as being a fiction, but to us, we know that this actually can be a reality, and even explaining how this kind of reality can happen. And another movie that we do recommend, it's called The Others, where they show, is a movie with Nicole Kidman, where they show a house where phenomena happen. I'm not going to tell you what happens because I don't want to spoil the movie for you, and I do really recommend it. It's very, very interesting. But if we think that we are the only ones that feel afraid with the presence of spirits, the spirit as well may be very uncomfortable with our presence. Like we were saying, not necessarily because we are going to be living in a house where someone died, that there is going to be any kind of interaction, but maybe there can be an interaction that we may feel disturbed by it, or they may feel disturbed by it. So I really like this joke, and when they are also trying to look for people or for something different. Also, because we have to remember that not necessarily, and this is the really strange part, when we return to the spiritual world, we will be we will understand that we are dead. There are many spirits that do not understand that they are dead. Just this week, I don't know who was talking to me about, I think it was Divaldo. Yeah, it has to be, we were with him this week, about communication from a spirit that was very pious, a very religious woman. And he communicates with the spirit. The spirit doesn't know exactly that it's actually doesn't belong to the realm of livings anymore. Continue attending a church all the time and have a community there, and do not realize that something different has happened. Well, if we're looking for haunted experiences, you can go to Venice, which is considered one of the most haunted cities in Europe. I don't know exactly why, of course. There is so much history there. There is so much that has happened, and still the ambience is inviting, enticing to the spirits to continue lingering there. So, and I guess also the lighting of the city, all of that, the narrow streets may be more conducive for us to be able, or for the spirits to manifest. But this is a haunted city destination if you are looking for places to to go for this kind of fun. And so, going into this area, what about exorcisms? If we think that there is the presence of a wicked spirit in our house, and this is always in vogue because people, and especially teenagers, love the horror movies and all of that, and they make sure that we always are going to have a good one. And in the Medium's book, Kardec Kardec asks, and I gave it an English accent, pergunta, right? Oh my God. If exorcism an effective means of expelling evil spirits from haunted places. And they say, have we ever been that being the case? We cannot convince anyone to do anything here on the physical level. How can we imagine that just by saying some formulas or throwing blessed water on them or hanging, I don't know, garlic or something or crosses in our home may actually make those kind of spirits vanish? It's only the hard work that they may assist us in doing that, which is the work of changing ourselves, changing the environment, changing our level of thoughts, and with that we will be able to not anymore connecting with spirits that may have something against us. There is always something that, intrigues me. Well, of course, we are in the Netflix era, and I have some, things that I really like to watch, and I was watching the Medici, talking about Venice and Florence and all of that. And in this season 2 of the Medici, there is one man that considers the hero of the story his enemy. And he tries to do everything to harm, to destroy him, to kill him, to all of that. Well, of course, at the end, like it will happen with all of us, I'm sorry to say that, all of us are going to move away to the spiritual realm. And then I was thinking, what is going to happen in this case? This is the spirit of a man that for decades tried to harm the Medici family and everything that represented, especially in the case of this young man. Is this young man going to continue suffering this kind of persecution? It doesn't make sense, because then we would say God doesn't love us. I mean, if it allows this kind of spirits to be connected with me just because this spirit has this kind of anger and hatred towards me, it's not fair at all. Especially if I'm vibrating, if I'm living in a different level than this spirit. Because otherwise, God, what's going to happen with us? We would have enemies all around, because there are people that do not like you because you're blonde, or because you're tall, or because your voice is nice, or because you're not married, or because you're married, or because you have children, or because you don't have children. So we cannot have control on what other people feel about us. But we have the control on how we are going to let these other people, and when I'm talking about other people, I'm talking about in both realms, the living and the dead, are going to interact and going to be affecting us. So when we are talking about exorcism, the only thing that can separate us actually is our mindset. If I'm here feeding hatred towards these entities as well, I mean, we are going to be connected. Love and hatred are the strongest connections we can have with each other. So this is something for us to think about it. So by what means can we neutralize the presence of these evil spirits? Of course, always by offering the other cheek. Remember that passage from the gospel where Jesus invites us, if someone hits you on your face or on your cheek, offer the other cheek. Means what? I want to have the same redness here on the other side so it evens out, or the swollen from being hit? No, because it means if someone is offering you a negative side, is offering you things that are damaging and hurting, you offer kindness, you offer forgiveness, you offer understanding, because not long ago, or maybe even today, we are not that great. It's still not that great. So in this case, when we move away, it's like oil and vinegar. You can put them in the same container, but it's still, they do not mix. So this is how, when we are talking about connection in terms of spirits, in terms of thoughts, it's the law of physics. I mean, it's not going, if you are in one level of vibration, you're not going to be affected by a different one. And so praying, understand that many times those kind of spirits are just connected to us because, you know, they are still affected by things that somehow we may have done to them. And they feel entitled to vengeance. And we have to ask for their forgiveness. And always, when we move ourselves to a different level of thoughts, to a more positive and more righteous way, those spirits will not find a way to be connecting to us. So in terms of spirits, so we're talking about the situation of haunted, wicked spirits, things like that. But what about the protecting spirits? So we understand and we are taught by Spiritism that we do have a designated 24/7 babysitter that we can also call guardian angel or whatever name you want to give it. It is there to assist us, to help us. How much time are we waiting, you know, or wasting time actually assessing this more evolved being? Because of course, very much like here, you have to have a certain age, a certain knowledge to babysit. That of course is going to be superior to the age of the child. So the spirits that are designated to help us, to follow us, is the same thing. They are more evolved than we are. They may not be super evolved, but they know more than we do. And they can help us. So we have to take advantage of that. Because, you know, the mission of them is actually as being spiritual parents to us. They are going to be taking care of us. They are trying to protect us. They are going to inspire us, you know, this inner voice, like we were talking just minutes ago about, you know, the thought that comes to your mind. All of a sudden you're trying to give yourself to, you know, to negative thought, to negative energy, and then something comes to you saying, no, you shouldn't be, you know, actually connecting with this kind of energy. In moments of despair, we may never think that in moments of despair we are not going to be helped. I love that message, the footprints on the sand. Have you all heard about this? Are there anyone that hasn't here before? Where there is this man that is after passing, he's analyzing his life, and his life, he looks at his life in footprints on the sand, and he always sees that there are two sets of footprints, one that refers to him and the other one that refers to Jesus or a protecting being. And he starts realizing by analyzing, you know, his life through that there were certain moments that there were just one set of footprints on the sand. And he realizes that when there was just one set of footprints, it was the most difficult moments of his life. And then he becomes intrigued by that, even thinking perhaps those moments were difficult, really hard, because at those moments I was alone. My protecting being or Jesus was not there with me. And then when he questions that, but why exactly in those moments I was alone? And they say, the reply is, you were not alone. I was carrying you in my lap, which is always makes me feel like crying when I read that or I talk about it, because it's so beautiful. So for us to think that even in the greatest moments of despair we are alone, we are not being fair with the love and mercy of our Heavenly Creator. The idea of us being here on this earth is never to suffer. We bring suffering to ourselves. We maybe not that much on this incarnation anymore, because finally we are waking up, but we still have some business to take care of from previous incarnations. You know, some of the crop that I have to reap now, because it was the result of my actions. But I know better now, and I can take control of my life, and I can count on the support of those spirits. But in those cases, we may also ask, especially when we see, people that, regardless of the assistance they have, they just keep on following in the wrong path. So, do protector spirits sometimes abandon their word when the letter is heedless of their warnings? They say, and the answer is, they withdraw when they see that their counsels are useless and that the word's will is strong in submitting to the influence of little evolved spirits. They do not abandon them entirely, however, and always try to make themselves heard. So, it's not that they abandon us. They move away. But they move away because we push them away. We shut down ourselves completely to their presence, to their influence. But, it's their mission. They can, even if they want. I was just hearing yesterday one talk from Sandra Borba. It's more like 4 minutes of this part that there she says, there is no ex-children. You may have ex-husband, ex-wife, ex-boyfriend, ex-job, ex-everything, but you cannot have ex-children. And in this case, when we are talking about the protecting spirits, our guardian angels, we don't have ex-guardian angels as well. They will always be there for us as long as they are assigned to this task. They may not be able to reach us, which is sad. What can we do to make this connection even stronger? I think, with Spiritism and with everything that we are learning now, this is the time that we have been inviting, or a renewed invitation, because the invitation has been happening forever, for us to finally wake up. And to understand that even in the paths that we have to track, it doesn't mean that we are alone and that we have to do that alone. That's why we have developed this study about the presence of spirits. Not just to be talking about, obsessors or, yes, there are spirits, but how can we use the interaction, the possibilities that are offered to us, even on, a subconscious level, because not necessarily we are going to feel or be sensitive to their presence. Some people are more than others. But just having this certainty that in certain moments of life, there are one passage in the Gospel according to Spiritism that talks about that in certain moments of life, we are not abandoned. And the passage is the passage of the man that is crossing the desert, and he's about to succumb of, not knowing where to go, and then he elevates his thoughts, asks for guidance, and all of a sudden, an idea comes to him of taking the left. And I I said left on purpose because we are always used to say, oh, the right is the right. Not necessarily. So he takes the left side, the left way to go to the road and arrives at an oasis, and he is saved. And then the conclusion the Spirit says or presents to us is the following. They say, well, he may realize that that was the guidance and help and assistance of spirits that inspired him to take the path on the left. Or he may say, oh, how smart I am because I choose right. Okay, so I think that there are many situations in our lives that we do not acknowledge the blessings that we receive on the day-to-day basis. That was why they have a phrase here in this country that I love so much. Count your blessings. We could do this kind of exercise. From the moment you wake up in the morning, it's already a blessing of having the opportunity of living life yet another day. So, will there be a time where we will no longer need this babysitter or guardian angel? They say that yes. I cannot even imagine when it's going to be. Of course, they say it is not on this earth or not so soon. But there will be a time that we are going to become the guardian angels because we no longer require this kind of supervision. It doesn't mean that we will not still have protecting spirits. We were talking here about Paul of Tarsus, leaving his body during his sleep state to meet Stephen, which actually acts more as a guardian angel of Paul of Tarsus than just a protecting spirit. So even a spirit on the level of involvement of a Paul also still had a protecting spirit. We just told you about Kardec, that his protecting spirit is St. Louis. Okay, our protecting spirit may be Mr. Not even Mr. but Mr. or no name, you know, some, huh? Or Joe Doe, right?
John Smith.
John Smith. No. what is when you go to the hospital and you Joe Doe, right? I mean, we not even have a name. It's someone unimportant, but it's someone that we have here helping us. Why we do not perceive that? Because especially on the level of involvement that we are, we would be so lazy. So lazy. I don't know what to do. Okay, the spirits are going to decide for me. So we have to have the merit of our actions, of our choices. Again, it doesn't mean that they are not there, but we will have to choose for ourselves and to understand what is going to be best for us. Can we have several protector spirits? Quite often, we do. Because we have the guardian angels, we have the family, the familial spirits, people that we met from other incarnations that somehow still sympathize with us. So the sympathetic spirits. We have the spirits that may sympathize with our profession. So let's say that you are doing something that can bring a good and positive impact in society, be it in the field of arts, be it in the field of technology, or be it in the field of medical discoveries. It's going to impact society. So there are spirits that will be sympathetic to that and is going to actually reach you and try to inspire you and to protect you. And there are spirits yet that are going to be empathizing with us or helping us in our spiritual search. And so we are spirits here that want to work for the universal understanding of spirituality, to learn that we are immortal spirits. So there are spirits of high-level spirits that are going to connect with us. It's interesting because many times we find in different spiritualists' beliefs people that want to commune or to have, an interaction, a communication only with highly evolved spirits. And we say, or the spirits tell us, you want to have communication or be in the in the same work as the highly evolved spirit, it's very easy, just serve others. So when we are giving ourselves to the service of humanity in whatever field we are working, we will be connected with spirits that we would never have any kind of access if it was not because of that. And in the Spiritism is the same. We talk so easily about, a spirit like St. Louis, Emmanuel, or even Dr. Bezerra, that is very well known for us, or like the spirits on this country, Abraham Lincoln and Benjamin Franklin, and spirits that actually work in the spiritual evolvement of humanity, that are actually in close proximity with us just because we are trying to do something good. If it was not because of that, they wouldn't be with us at all. So, and in the same way that we have spirits that occupies themselves with individuals, we have spirits that occupies themselves collectively. So, for instance, in the field of spirituality, we learn from Spiritism that in Brazil we have the spirit that is called Ismael, that takes care of the spiritual evolvement of the country Brazil. In France, we hear that the spirit that is taking care of the spiritual evolvement is Leon Denis. Here in the U.S., according to what Divaldo once disclosed to us, the spirit that takes care of spirituality is Abraham Lincoln. Although Benjamin Franklin was actually behind the phenomena that happened in Hydesville. He was guiding, and there are in the book History of Spiritualism, the Arthur Conan Doyle, he mentions the presence and the participation of Benjamin Franklin in the beginning of those manifestations that were going to open up the eyes of the world for spiritist phenomena. Can they divert misfortune? They cannot. There is a passage from Chico Xavier, because Chico Xavier, as we know, he went through many struggles, many difficulties. But he used to say, I need to go through these struggles, not because my spirit is ill. So my body is ill, but not my spirit, meaning he wouldn't need that kind of situation in the future. I think he was more like giving example to us, people that come to give example. Oh, he had it too easy, everything was good, he never had any problem of gossiping, malice, or health problems, or financial problems. Well, Chico Xavier starved many days on his life, and we know a little bit about his life. So, but I think it was actually to say, even when you are facing all those kind of adversities in your life, you still can do it. And you can start from nothing. And there was this passage that he describes that he was talking to his spiritual guide, Emmanuel, and then kind of, complaining about a situation that he was living in his life, and complaining about not having the support and protection of Emmanuel, in order to perhaps avoid this adversity. And then Emmanuel tells him, I it's like if you are going out on the rain, on the snow, you can dress properly, you can put your raincoat, your boots, take your umbrella with you, but it's still some of the weather, this bad weather, is going to reach you. So everything that I give you in terms of knowledge and understanding is exactly this protection, like the garments we can use ourselves to protect us from adversities. So I am present. I'm giving you as much as I can, but I cannot remove from you, from your experience, from your needs, the situations that you have to go through. So it doesn't mean they are not going to be present. Minimize things as much as they can, but there are certain things that we have to go through, that we have to face in life. This is a picture that was taken many, many years ago, and it was showed, I think, even in newspapers, I don't know, of a car that had an accident, as you can see. There were 4 people in this car, and none of them suffered anything. And when they took the picture, they saw this light. I don't know. It's just it could even be. It was, of course, not presented as being a fake picture. It could even be a fake picture, but from our understanding, we know that this is actually what happens many, many times in many situations. So, when should we pray? When should we thank God? In every situation of life. And many times we forget to talk to God, to thank God when good things happen to us. So it's about time that we start acknowledging this connection we have with God, and to be more grateful, to be more present, and not necessarily just going there for, begging like little children that just go run to their parents when they want something from us. So this is what we have for today in terms of helping us, actually, like I said before, to always, in circumstances of our lives, to visualize the presence of spirits around us, to understand that we are all connected. The bonds that connect us all as children of God, as brothers and sisters, is stronger than anything else. And we can actually use their assistance, their guidance, to give us support and for us to have more strength in the difficulties. They normally say that we cry when we are born because we know how hard, how challenging life can be, because we come, full of, ideals, and say, no, this time I'm going to succeed, and I'm going to do this and that, and I'm going to erase all my previous errors and everything, and we come here and we get so distracted. So we have those friends, we have those benefactors. They are here to constantly remind us about our commitments. Not because, they are strict, you committed to do that. No, but because by doing and by being faithful to our commitments, we are going to reach what we want so much, which is peace and happiness. And so let us remember that every time that we are in this kind of difficulty, talk to the spirits. It's not memorized prayers that is going to help necessarily if your heart is not on it, but it's actually the act of acknowledging the presence of spirits, and sometimes just look up and say, I need help, and help will come.